Good morning. President Park Geun-hye calls on business leaders for more investment and dramatic measures to push the economy forward. The relationship between South and North Korea plays a major factor in security in Northeast Asia. A look into the diplomatic dynamics of the region. With the turn of the year, more people are looking to receive medical checkups to start fresh on the right foot. What's available? And about 3,000 polar bear swimmers gathered at a festival in Busan to take a dip. Why is this so popular? Alex Segrist checks it out on Korea Today, Tuesday, January 6th, 2015.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And a good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on Korea Today. I'm Kim Young alongside Ojin Ju and Kim Min-jung.
Good morning, everyone. Those of you walking down the Cheonggyecheon stream might have tested their luck and threw a few coins in the wishing well. I've never tried it personally myself. Have you guys
I've always
tried doing
made a
that?
wish.
I haven't tried it yet.
Well, our Chun Song-cho is standing by. She's about to test her luck and see if she gets that coin in there. Let's take a look. Just, there you go.
Ooh.
Did you get in there?
It's too dark. You can't really tell, but she's throwing a couple in there.
She's just wasting money.
The coins that have been collected at that Palseokdam have always been used for a good cause, being donated for people in need. And this year, some 80 million won, or $72,000, will be donated to Seoul Scholarship Foundation, and 94,000 coins of foreign currency will be donated to UNICEF as well.
All right, so Seoul citizens as well as the visitors alike, if you are headed down there and you do make that wish, I mean, don't call it a waste of money, even if your wish doesn't come true. The fact is that you're doing something good.
Exactly. I didn't know that it goes to a charity organization. I think I'm definitely going to take part next time.
Are you going to throw dollar bills in there now?
No, just take 101. All right, let's check the stories making headlines this morning. President Park Geun-hye has called on Korea's business leaders to help the country make a leap forward, saying now is the time to advance its economy for the next 30 years. In a New Year's address organized by the Korea Chamber of Commerce, attended by some 1,500 corporate executives and politicians on Monday, President Park said companies must expand investment and take drastic measures to propel the economy.
특히 해외 진출 경험과 네트워크를 갖고 있는 대기업이 중소기업의 해외 동반 진출에 적극적인 관심을 가져주시기 바랍니다.
Park Yong-man, president of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and the head of Tusan Corporation, said he projects the Korean economy to do better than last year on the back of a rosier global economy. He added the country has to overcome its low birth rate and the graying population to find the next growth engine.
In the midst of growing concern, a cow with suspected symptoms of foot and mouth disease has been discovered in Anseong, Gyeonggi-do Province. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs said on Monday that a cow on a farm with 47 cows has been displaying abnormal symptoms. Testing is currently underway and results are expected to come out later on Tuesday. Quarantine officials are on alert as what was limited to pigs so far this year is now seemingly spreading to cows. More than 30 cases have been confirmed around the country since the first in Chungcheongbuk-do Province last month. Holding an emergency meeting on Sunday, the Agriculture Ministry ordered vaccinations to be given on livestock in areas where the disease has been reported, while it plans to hold a second nationwide sterilization of livestock vehicles and farms on Wednesday.
The Seoul city government has issued a final warning to Lotte Group, saying it will revoke its temporary license for structural use should additional accidents or safety hazards occur in the controversial Lotte World Mall located in Jamsil, southeastern Seoul. The building partially opened its lower 3 floors late last year to the public. The city's Housing and Construction Bureau held a press conference on Monday and said, while there were no structural problems with the building, Lotte has failed to adequately address safety concerns, thus aggravating public anxiety. So far, more than 10 cases involving worries over safety have been reported, including the recent death of a construction worker. The city said the building that would be the tallest in the country once completed in 2016 could be shut down forcibly if Lotte Group fails to meet Seoul's demands of providing a better safety management system.
And this year marks the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, and for Korea, its independence from Japan, followed by the division of the Korean Peninsula. And the leaders of the two Koreas say this year might be the turning point in their turbulent relationship.
That's right. And many experts are weighing in on the changing dynamics involving Seoul and Pyongyang and the countries in the Northeast Asian region as well. We're going to hear from one expert. Joining us on the line is Mr. Scott Snyder, a senior fellow for Korea Studies. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Well, this past weekend, the U.S. imposed new sanctions on North Korea on some 10 specific people and 3 organizations over the alleged cyber attack on Sony Pictures. And this has angered Pyongyang. Where do you see the relationship going from this point onwards?
Well, I do think that the sanctions that the U.S. has imposed does suggest that the U.S. is taking an even more wary and even adversarial position toward North Korean threats in the cyber and missile and nuclear areas. The individuals that were named and the entities that were named are directly involved with North Korean procurement efforts to build up its nuclear and missile programs, and I think that the U.S. is trying to take stepped-up efforts in order to stop North Korea from being able to have a reach to threaten the United States with nuclear weapons or long-range missiles.
Mr. Snyder, North Korea, in condemning Washington, treaded a little bit on the lighter side when it comes to South Korea, and there are moves to hold high-level dialogue between the two Koreas. Now, how would such a development be taken by the countries in this region?
I think generally speaking, most countries would view an improved inter-Korean relationship as a positive. The big question is whether or not there is a convergence of interest between the two Koreas that would enable that sort of relationship, a stable relationship, to be consolidated. And I think the North Korean nuclear issue is the big sticking point. I think the Park Geun-hye administration has been quite adamant in its opposition to living with a North Korea that can threaten the South with nuclear weapons.
Let's try to bring in other countries in this picture. And last year, Pyongyang expanded ties with Tokyo and Moscow, too. And there's now even talks of a possible summit between North Korea and Russia. But however, the North's ties with Beijing seem to have gone south a little bit. Do tell us about the shifting dynamics, especially with China in the picture.
Yeah, I think that's right. The China-North Korea relationship has clearly grown a lot colder, and as a result, we see a North Korean diplomatic diversification effort to reach out actively to other countries, Japan, Russia, even Iran, Southeast Asia. And a lot of this is about trying to go around Beijing, but it's really not possible for North Korea to be able to replace all of the things that it depends on from Beijing to provide. So I think that at some point it'll also be necessary for Pyongyang to find a way to stabilize the relationship with Beijing as well.
Now, you did mention the nuclear issue with North Korea. Now, lastly, what would be some of the foreseeable events that could change those relations within Northeast Asia?
Well, I think the big issue that people would be concerned about is the possibility of another nuclear test. Last April, South Korea's foreign minister referred to the prospect of a 4th North Korean nuclear test as a quote-unquote game changer. It would be a real test in terms of the China-DPRK relationship, if you think it's strange now. It could be even more so following a 4th nuclear test. And so I think that is probably the downside risk that people are most concerned about.
All right, so 2015 will be another eventful year, and that may be an understatement. Well, thank you, Mr. Snyder, for your time this morning.
Sure, glad to talk to you.
That was Mr. Scott Snyder, a senior fellow for Korea Studies, sharing his thoughts on the inter-Korean relations in the year 2015.
All right, now we'll take things over to Jinju. Jinju?
Thank you, guys. So we took a look at the diplomatic dynamics between North Korea and its neighboring countries, and we'll now take a closer look at inter-Korean relations in particular. And joining us now is Dr. Kim Cheol-woo, Senior Research Fellow at Korea Institute for Defense Analyses. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So South Korea proposed talks with the North last week, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in his New Year's address said he is open to talks with President Park Geun-hye even. So how serious is Pyongyang with these remarks, and what could be some of the variables that could affect prospects of inter-Korean talks?
Kim Jong-un's remarks on inter-Korean dialogue do represent something of a turnaround. That's my understanding. And what Kim Jong-un said suggests that Pyongyang is now looking to talk directly to Seoul for the purpose of kind of using this dialogue as an escaping window from the international isolation. On top of that, his message is part of a more conciliatory gesture, which means that what is clear is that the resumption of the whatever level of talks is very likely to happen. So overall, Kim Jong-un's remarks is very significant in terms of its timing and particularly, his showing up a strategy regarding his grip on power. So overall, Kim Jong-un's remarks is quite different from the previous pretending gestures. At this moment, the resumption of the official level talks, stalled talks in previous talks, will likely to happen. But the rough hurdles remains in order for the high-level summit talks, particularly President Park Geun-hye's and Kim Jong-un's, talks is very hard job. But the North Korea put the preconditions regarding the joint military exercise between Seoul and Washington. That's a very critical point to address.
So that U.S.-South Korea joint military drills could be the biggest variable in leading up to the talks. So the ball is in North Korea's court on deciding whether it will come to the negotiating table. So if these talks do happen, in what kind of a framework will it take place?
That framework, North Korea is likely to demand to Seoul, why don't we start the mountain Kumgang tourism program, or demand lifting of the May 24th sanctions right after the Cheonan incident. Seoul imposed that specific sanctions regarding the civilian exchanges and North and South Korean dialogues. So, but the Korea's perspective, Seoul's perspective, primary perspective focused on family reunion. So, Kim Jong-un regime is likely to use this kind of new agenda setting on even unification is likely to use as a kind of a exit strategy from the United Nations and human rights accusations and those kind of stuff. So at this juncture, Kim Jong-un's maneuver is quite different from the previous one because his more direct and meaningful suggestions will make another big stride in these stalled relations in this peninsula.
And the South Korean government has made it clear that it will push ahead with talks with the North, despite Washington's new sanctions against the North over the Sony hacking incident. And it has allowed aid in the form of raw produce to the North for the first time in the Park administration. So in line with these moves, what kind of efforts do you think Seoul needs to push ahead with to improve inter-Korean ties in the future?
One word. Rather than principled activities, I'm asking kind of flexible. to make the most of this very, rare opportunity. So it needs to be more flexible in dealing with particularly Kim Jong-un's kind of a saving face strategy. He's likely to use this inter-Korean dialogue as an internal solidarity initiative. While fully understanding his initiative, Park Geun-hye administration will likely to have to push this drive up to the more flexible approach rather than tit for tat or just regarding the haggling over the who's going to be representative or whatever. So that's why the Park Geun-hye administration, particularly Ministry of National Unification, proposed the whatever issues will be talked, will be the agenda for this specific junction. So I think the Park Geun-hye administration's initiative for these practical or frank discussions will make a big difference at this specific time. One thing, very clear thing is the North Korea is likely to drive a wedge between the United States and Seoul's alliance. So I think North Korea's anti-American sentiment, provoking anti-American sentiment is very likely to happen.
Right.
So the upcoming late February's key resolve military exercise is the marginal point. It should proceed as planned. The flexibility does not mean giving full concession toward Pyongyang.
All right. Dr. Kim, I believe that's all the time we have for this morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers. Now, a variety of stories on the local papers this morning. There's an alarming story about the country's soaring household debt on Gyeongyang Shinmun. So we'll first take a look at this headline at the top. And it reads, now is the time to go on a debt diet. If you look at this graph here, the article highlights the mounting amounts of household debt and how it is ever more important now to cut back. If we take a look at these sub-headlines right here, there are warnings being given to the government as well as households to all rapidly work on reducing debt quantities as asset growth has become limited. Thus, the paper emphasizes that if households have earnings and substantial income, it is most important to settle financial liabilities first. Now, over on Joseonilbo, there's another headline. This one is pretty much on all the papers this morning. The title says, problematic presidential documents jointly fabricated by Jo Eung-chun and Park Kwan-chun. So around the middle of last month, I mentioned the widening scandal involving a leaked presidential document dubbed the Cheongyune document a few times here on the show as well. If you take a look closer at the article, it says, yesterday, prosecutors announced the document claiming that a former aide to the president in her lawmaker years tried to exert undue influence on state affairs was fabricated by a senior police officer and a former presidential secretary. Now, announcing the interim outcome of their probe, investigators at the Seoul District Prosecutor's Office said that they have concluded that Superintendent Park Kwan-chun authored and leaked the document. Then it was handed over to the president's younger brother, Ji-man, who is also the chairman of EG Group, an electronic materials producer under the orders of former presidential secretary Jo Eung-chun. Now, following up from yesterday's story on 동아일보, this one here towards the bottom regarding Beijing-Pyongyang ties. The headline says, Beijing lodges protest after North Korean army deserter murder case. Yesterday, the Daily reported on the North Korean army deserter who killed 4 Chinese citizens in an apparent robbery in the Chinese border city of Haelong late last month. While yesterday, China said it has lodged a protest with North Korea after the incident took place, and China's public security authorities are dealing with the issue since. The paper says the assailant's body was repatriated to the north after he was caught and shot. Finally, we'll take a look at some news on the economy at the top here on the Mail Business newspaper. Title says financial sector's New Year's ceremony, President's surprise move. So President Park Geun-hye called on local businesses to expand investment and make inroads into foreign markets to help boost growth for the Korean economy. She made the appeal at a New Year's meeting yesterday hosted by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as you did hear in the headlines earlier. Now, in an unprecedented move, she struck up conversations with some 10 corporate leaders unannounced following her opening speech. That was a look at our local headlines on this Tuesday. Now following are the stock numbers from Monday.
So earlier in the show, we saw Song-cho trying to throw a few coins into that wishing well. It was pretty dark. I mean, that's what's remarkable about it.
Exactly.
It's really dark these days in the morning.
Right now,
huh?
it's 21 minutes past the hour, and it is still dark. We see the sun coming up a little bit later, but that should all change as the weather gets a little bit warmer, but we're not expecting that just yet. I wonder if Song-cho actually got it in there. Song-cho has the weather for us.
Good morning to you, Song-cho.
Good morning.
Yang and Minjung, good morning. Yes, I think I've invested enough coins already for my good luck for today. And yes, we were expecting maybe a bit of snow overnight, but it mainly stayed in the form of rain in most regions due to the warmer temperatures. Now the wet conditions have subsided, but the roads still may be wet, so you should definitely watch out for slippery ones out there when you're driving this morning. And yes, temperatures are on the warm side right now at 0 degrees Celsius here in Seoul because of those clouds that are still left behind from the storm system. However, as conditions start clearing out in the afternoon, things will get colder and colder just in time for Sohan today, which is one of the 24 seasonal divisions in Korea and supposed to be the coldest time of the year. A frigid air mass is on its way from central China, bringing a cold snap all across the country. It's expected to last all through Friday and will be accompanied by strong gusty winds. In fact, the winds are blowing quite heavily already, so we should brace once again for another cold, bitter winter weather. And with that, let's take a closer look at today's conditions around the nation. You'll notice that midday highs remain below 0 in Seoul, meaning it's going to be even colder than right now. Things are exceptionally warmer over in the southern regions, such as Busan and Jeju, with highs of 10 and 9 degrees respectively. This is all for me with the weather forecast. Back to Minjung.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has said his government will express remorse over Japan's actions on the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II later this year. We'll get the details with our Eunice Kim, who joins us from the News Center. Good morning to you, Eunice.
Good morning.
Now, this could be a shift from the hawkish stance we've seen the leader hold before.
Well, that is certainly what people are watching for with this announcement. This will be a document closely watched by both Korea and China, given the implications and potential impact it could have on their frosty relations with Tokyo currently. Min-jung, in his first news conference of the year on Monday, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said his administration will issue a new statement to, quote, show to the world, including our remorse over the last war, our path as a democratic nation of peace, and how we will contribute even more in future to Asia and to the world. He said his cabinet would continue to reflect the stances of past governments concerning historical wrongdoings, including the Murayama Statement, which was was, of course, released by then Prime Minister Tomiichi Murayama on the 50th anniversary of the war's end. In it, he said Japan had caused tremendous damage and suffering to Asia through its colonial rule and aggression, and expressed a heartfelt apology. Now, the Abe statement is expected on August 15th later this year, which is, of course, the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender.
Well, you said it, but that will be a closely watched statement and dissected in every way. Now, dozens of families are still awaiting confirmation on the fate of their loved ones who presumably went down with the ill-fated Air Asia flight more than a week ago. How did the 9th day of search operations go?
Yeah, it was still very much mired by poor visibility underwater and rainy and foggy conditions at the Java Sea. But divers did recover 3 more bodies on Monday and possibly a section of the AirAsia plane that contains a black box. One commander of an Indonesian Navy ship told a news conference on Monday they had found what has a, quote, high probability of being the tail of the plane that should contain the flight data and voice recorders. However, Indonesia's chief of search and rescue, Bambang Solistio, expressed caution, saying that they are still working on confirming that. Now, strong underwater currents kept divers from searching for long. It also has led authorities to widen their search area off of Borneo Island. A team of more than 40 vessels in the skies and on the seas have been scouring the area, and AirAsia CEO Tony Fernandez urged everyone to remain strong as he tweeted that, quote, facts will come out and time will show what AirAsia is all about. This, of course, as a lot of criticism has also come out on the airliner.
Hopefully all the families will get their much-needed closure on this story.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks a lot, Eunice.
You bet.
Now stay with us on Korea Today. With the turn of the year, more people are looking to receive medical checkups to start fresh on the right foot. And these days, there are more options in greater detail, catering to your needs and age group. We'll learn more about what's available with our in-house doctors, so don't go away.
Some 6 decades ago, an artist by the name of Kim Byung-gi actually established himself as one of the forefathers of Korean contemporary art. Our Lee Myun-hee joins us this morning to talk more about this artist. Good morning.
Good morning. So he's actually just a couple of years shy of being a centenarian, which is more than what most people can accomplish. But he also really did influence early Korean contemporary art. Now, the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art has opened an exhibition celebrating this artist and his work. Take a look at this next report.
At almost 100 years old, painter Kim Byung-gi is one of the oldest painters in Korea. Yet he still burns with passion for his work.
From now on and for the rest of my life, I will be closer to the audience, at least for whatever life I have left.
The exhibition at the Gwacheon branch of the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art looks back at the past 60 years of the artist. Their works that define Kim as an artist, famous for balancing contrasting ideas.
My work contains both the East and the West. It's shapeless, but defined.
100 of Kim's works take the audience through decades of his life as an artist and also as a major force of movement in Korean contemporary art.
You know, it seems that many artists actually studied abroad at that time when he was studying, right? And tell us about his relationship with the global art community.
Right, so in the early 60s, he actually went he served as a Korean commissioner at the Sao Paulo Biennale, and that's where he really did establish his ties with the global community, and he spent quite a few decades after that abroad, and that's where he picked up his Western influence, and so he's really known for being able to combine this Eastern and Western influences with his work, but at the same time, while while he was abroad, he also did send his work back to Korea, and that was how he was able to maintain his influence here.
Okay, to have influence is
Right.
what every artist dreams of, but at the same time, to be recognized for having that influence, that's a different story.
Right.
Now, how did he establish himself as that influential artist?
So artist Kim really takes to this technique where he does this layering and lines, and at that time, that was considered a very minimalism approach, and it was very new. And so I think that really took people off guard. And so people were really inspired by him, and then, from then on, the Korean contemporary art really did develop.
So doing something out of the ordinary.
Exactly.
All right, well, thank you very much for that.
Always a pleasure.
And still ahead on Korea today, you might call this crazy, and I think I call it crazy as well. I don't think I'd ever do it. Jumping into temperatures or waters with temperatures that are below freezing. Well, not below freezing, but it's pretty darn cold, and the weather's cold as well. Bone-chilling temperatures make most people want to huddle around a cozy fire, but for some, it brings out the opposite. About 3,000 polar bear swimmers gathered at a festival in Busan to take a dip. So why is this so popular? I don't know.
So why is it popular?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Right? There's an ongoing debate, though, online about whether Korean medicine clinics should be allowed to use modern medicinal devices such as x-rays and ultrasound machines.
Right. Korean medicine doctors want this, but the idea is facing strong opposition by Western medicine doctors. And to tell us more, Seo Mi-so랑 joins us here in the studio. Good morning, Ms.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, quite a debate. So, under current regulations, Korean medicine doctors aren't allowed to use x-ray machines. They'll get fined if they do. If they want to look at a patient's x-ray to check things such as bone density, scoliosis, bone fracture, and so on, the patient would need to go get the x-ray elsewhere, most likely from a Western medicine doctor, and come back. The same goes for ultrasounds. But now the government is looking at making it legal for Korean medicine doctors to operate these devices. Western medicine doctors are strongly against it, but let's see what people online have to say. Korean medicine doctors already learned about these devices at school. Why not let them use it for a more accurate diagnosis? To which another person replied, by the same reasoning, Western medicine doctors also learn about acupuncture and dentistry at school. Does this mean that they can give acupuncture and drill teeth? It's all about the level of training. And another, I think the quality of care in Korean medicine would improve with the use of modern medical devices. Please think about the patient, not just your turf war.
So I believe that the health ministry has to make a decision, but is there a set date until when they will make the decision?
Not a set date yet, but they did say sometime within the first half of this year. Upcoming. Meanwhile, the Seoul city government announced yesterday that it will install speakers in 5 areas in Seoul that have low human traffic, such as these back alleys, and play classical music from the speakers to reduce crime. Now, the effect of classical music in reducing crime rates has already been demonstrated in other cities around the world, such as Elm Park Station in London and Minneapolis in Minnesota, USA.
But why does it sound more creepy?
You watch too many horror movies.
You're walking down a dark alley and you hear dum, dum, dum,
Symphony.
dum, Beethoven.
That's a bad segment. Wrapping up, a large volunteer organization with more than 100,000 members just launched a campaign to promote hanbok to the rest of the world. The organization is called VANK. It's made up of people from all walks of life and all ages united by a single goal to introduce Korea to the world. Their latest campaign, dubbed the Wear Hanbok Project, comes in 5 parts, 5 missions that members can pick and choose from. 1. Wear hanbok and use public transport. 2. Meet a friend. 3. Visit an ancient palace. 4. Talk about hanbok to foreigners. And 5. Post photos of all of this or any hanbok on social media. The project started yesterday and will continue for the rest of the year, introducing the beautiful dress to the rest of the world.
It's a noble cause for sure, but I don't know how it will ever catch on among just the regular people. But it's true. People could get to know hanbok more around the world, for sure.
Right, and that's exactly the reason why VANK started this project, because not everyone was familiar with hanbok. And they also mentioned that, before we get frustrated about this, that not everyone knows about hanbok, we should first all do our part to actively support, wear, and promote hanbok in our day-to-day lives.
So,
I agree.
Are you gonna wear
tomorrow? Maybe. If you're game.
Maybe. baby. All right. Thank you, Misorang, for that.
You're welcome.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with Korea's women's national football team as head coach Yoon Deok-yeol held a press conference on Monday regarding the team's chances at the 2015 Women's World Cup in June. With the women's national team beginning their training session at the National Training Center in Paju, head coach Yoon sounded pretty optimistic over their chances for the upcoming 2015 Women's World Cup in Canada. With Park Eun-sun and Ji So-yeon at top as the two top strikers, he stated that their goal is to finish at least in the round of 16. Meanwhile, the team will compete in the Four Nations tournament in China starting on the 11th of this month. And now staying in swimming, this time with Park Tae-hwan, who despite a rather disappointing Asian Games in Incheon, hopes to bounce back in time for the 2016 Rio Games in, Rio. And in order to do that, he's looking to train at another place. And of course, according to a close source to Park Tae-hwan, the Marine boy is set to make a trip to the U.S. on the 7th in order to find a training camp where he can prepare for the Summer Games in 2016. They added that with the lack of world-class swimmers in Australia now, he wants to compete with the best, and that country being the U.S. with names like Ryan Lochte, who's currently dominating the swimming world. And now finishing things off in baseball, where SB Nation, a renowned sports website, ranked the top shortstops in the majors. And what do you know? Kang Jung-ho is ranked 12th in the list. Now, despite the lack of progress in contract talks between Kang Jung-ho and the Pittsburgh Pirates, SB Nation listed Kang Jung-ho ahead of Elvis Andrus for 12th in the shortstop ranking. They stated that while he won't have the power numbers he did in Korea, he has the potential to become a franchise player for the Pirates. Meanwhile, the deadline for the contract negotiation is set for January 20th. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
With the new year, a lot of people are lining up to receive medical checkups.
My New Year's resolution for the year is to give birth to a healthy baby. So I thought it was important to first receive a medical checkup.
I'm here to receive a medical examination because I thought it would be good to have a healthy year ahead.
People should receive essential physical examinations once or twice a year. Usually, cholesterol level tests, chest x-rays, endoscopies, and other cancer tests according to the person's age group are carried out. Recently, more specialized medical checkup centers that add on other elements to regular physicals are receiving more attention. It's not only in Western medicine, but also in Korean medicine that they offer health examinations.
In my case, I have cold hands and feet, so I thought I would be able to find some answers in Korean medicine rather than Western. That's why I'm here to receive a checkup.
There's the Yangdorak test that measures the meridian energy flowing in the hands and feet for a health assessment. There's also ultrasound analysis of cerebral blood flow that looks for stroke symptoms, a test for artery hardening, a test named Vega designed to gauge the body's energy levels and functional abnormalities, and an infrared test for body heat. These are all detailed methods to get a closer look at the state of your body.
Even if there isn't some organic disorder in the body, you can get an overall assessment of your bodily functions through Korean medical tests. To get an overview of how your body is can be a more thorough method of testing.
With growing interest in how to maintain good health and keep the body young, anti-aging tests have also been introduced.
Anti-aging tests look at whether the body is in good balance and if things are functioning properly. So they look at whether things are okay before there are disorders.
By conducting a hair analysis, the amount of toxins and fine nutrients accumulated in the body can be determined. There are also organic acid tests, DNA tests, and tests for the autonomic nervous system. These provide information on the problems that each individual faces and prescriptions to change the state of the body. The Gangbuk Samsung Medical Center's Total Healthcare Center uses cutting-edge smart examination services that offer users a smartphone guide for greater convenience.
By introducing such advanced systems, we can conduct physicals a lot faster with greater convenience. Other medical evaluation teams from China and European countries have visited and given us great praise for this system.
All the information that needs to be checked prior to tests are provided through this smart guide. They also show visitors how to get from one place to another. Also, automatic registration allows people to see how many people are waiting in line.
It was really convenient and easy to use. I was able to register with my smartphone and check what was on my list. Each time I opened and closed the door to change, I would be able to tag my phone and see how much I would have to wait, so it was a better use of time.
After the test, you can check the results on your phone, or you can choose to look through only those that show abnormalities. There are a growing number of health examinations offering more detail for the patients. Start off the year with a medical checkup to ensure a healthier year ahead.
We've shared our New Year's resolutions with our viewers. Yours was to become muscular, and his was to lose some weight, which has already been broken. But it's not just us. Many people are looking to become more fit and healthier and are signing up for medical checkups.
Right. And to tell us more about these medical checkups, we're now joined by Dr. Alice Hyung-kyung-tan from Samsung Medical Center. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
What's your New Year's resolution? Just out of curiosity.
I want to stay healthy.
Healthy enough as it is, I think, right? Now, there are a lot of checkups, and there's a lot of different examinations that they do include in a normal physical or a medical checkup, right? Tell us some of the options available.
Right, I think most people are familiar with the tried and true traditional format of a medical evaluation where you meet with your doctor, you have an interview, physical examination, some basic blood and urine tests, X-ray and EKG. You may not be familiar with some of the newer diagnostic tests, such as genetic testing looking for hereditary diseases. There's something called coronary CT scan, which looks at heart health, and also capsule endoscopy, which is a very small camera embedded in a pill that you swallow. And it looks at the inside of your gut and sometimes can substitute traditional or conventional endoscopy.
That's sci-fi stuff. That's stuff out of the movie.
What happens when it exits?
Then it exits.
It is interesting. And they say we need to get medical checkups at least once or twice a year, but we come up with all these excuses, being too busy, being short of money. But why is it so important?
Well, we want to find a potentially dangerous disease in its early stage when it's still, say, preventable or curable. For example, stomach cancer has an up to 90% cure rate if it's found in its early stages. And you can also do endoscopic treatment. In other words, avoid major surgery to treat stomach cancer in its early stages. Colon cancer is another big killer that can be completely prevented with screening colonoscopy, during which the doctor can remove the polyps that later turn into colon cancer. So the goal is early detection and early treatment.
Right, and the age 40 is apparently the time you cannot miss, and the National Health Insurance Service provides medical checkups for those around that age, I guess, that milestone, and guess who's around that age bracket?
I'm 30. I'm turning 30.
So you say. Right, and you had a chance to get your physical, right?
Yeah, I actually did. I did visit one of the hospitals there that's affiliate of Samsung, right?
Right.
And they're actually a hospital that's really just dedicated just to these physical and medical checkups, and the system was just fabulous. So we'll take a look at that, but viewer discretion is advised.
What kind of tests will Young be receiving today?
In the case of men in their 40s, cancer and chronic diseases are the main risks. So they will have to receive an endoscopy to check for their stomach, colon, thyroid, and lung cancer. Also, a benzodine test or colonoscopy, a chest X-ray, and a thyroid ultrasound.
First, a basic checkup will be conducted through a blood test and X-ray to examine cholesterol levels and whether or not there are signs of pneumonia. In the case of men in their 40s, it's good to receive an endoscopy every other year for early detection of potential stomach cancer. If you have enjoyed drinking for a prolonged period of time, it's good to receive a liver ultrasound. This can determine if you have liver cancer, fatty liver, and acute or chronic hepatitis. Also in their 40s, people are more vulnerable to thyroid diseases, which is why an ultrasound that can identify even tumors under 1 centimeter is recommended for a detailed examination.
So you always take these medical examinations every once in a while, and the thing is that, you walk in not being too afraid, but, right when you get in that seat and they start testing you, there's things that you worry about. And one of those things, or some of those things, actually happened to be my blood pressure, and also I've gained quite a bit of weight since my mid-30s, so I'm a little bit worried about how that's going to turn out, but we'll have to see.
What test results will Young receive? We take a closer look in the studio.
I'll tell you one thing, my hearing's really good.
Your hearing's really good.
She said I passed with flying.
Congratulations.
She said I have dog hearing.
Wow, okay, like a bat.
So be careful what you whisper behind my back, all right?
All right, so he added a few additional options onto his medical checkup. What about someone in her 30s, maybe a woman in her 30s like myself? What are some of the things that you must get?
Well, a lot of women are getting pregnant later in life, in their 30s, and so that's a time to do pre-pregnancy counseling regarding lifestyle and also reviewing vaccination status, especially varicella and rubella vaccines. We also do breast cancer screening and cervical cancer screening as well for women in their 30s.
But then how about the people in their 40s and older? This is when they get really aware of receiving these medical checkups.
Right. So the risk factors for cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, they all increase significantly in people in their 40s and 50s. And so that's when we look harder for these diseases, basically. Starting at age 50 is when we start doing colonoscopies in both men and women. At this age group, I start paying attention to women's bone health as well. So women in their 40s, premenopausal women, I will start checking a vitamin D status. For women in their 50s or postmenopausal women, I will add a bone mineral density looking for osteoporosis.
Now, there's the age group factor, but there's also other factors involved as well. For example, your lifestyle and your obesity.
Right, so I can't emphasize enough the importance of discussing with your doctor lifestyle factors, but also family history. If you have any specific health concerns and symptoms as well, when you discuss all of these things with your doctor can help design a personalized screening program just for you.
So, I mean, just real shortly, how do I look?
So your results.
Yes.
So, Young, you're alive?
I'm alive.
Yes, and you're going to stay living. Yes. There were some minor abnormalities. Your blood sugar, your fasting blood sugar was a little high. There were some factors related to what we call metabolic syndrome. So you are at slightly increased risk for diabetes and heart disease.
It runs in the family.
But this is the time when it's still reversible.
Okay.
So working on exercise, weight loss, good diet, it's all important for you.
So cut back on that chocolate bar, right?
Exactly.
And you're walking to the studio
and maybe the alcohol.
Oh, I have to walk up these stairs? Are you crazy? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So in the central and the northern parts of the region of the peninsula, South Korea actually, we're seeing a lot of sub-zero temperatures now. What you're about to see, I wouldn't recommend it. So the question is, why do you do it? Alex Seacrest.
No, Alex Seacrest joins us. Maybe he has the answer.
Why do you do it?
Why did you do it?
What's the matter with you?
I don't back down from a challenge, and this was no different. This was incredible. On Sunday, we went down to Busan for the Polar Bear Swim Festival, and wow, that's all I gotta say. It started in 1988 with the commemoration of the Olympics that came to Seoul. Only about 100 people then. About 3,000 people do it annually now. So it's this really popular event, and I would say more, but you just gotta see the video. It's insane.
All right.
The Polar Bear Swim Festival first began in Busan in 1988, and with the enthusiasm and support of many of its participants has continued on to this year, making it the 28th annual festival. So this year, just like any other, a lot of people gathered at Haeundae Beach to enjoy the swim festival.
People are in their t-shirts. Wow.
Aside from the main polar bear swim, a lot of other events took place on the side. There was a face painting and a place you can make your own hand warmers to beat the cold before diving into the water. It was full of this festive atmosphere. And to mark the new year, people came together at the beach at the peak of winter. Everyone had their own goals and hopes for the year ahead.
Survive.
So it's also a time for many to pray for good health in the new year as they jump into the icy cold water.
You must be a
I
fireman.
love being able to feel winter like this full on in the middle of the ocean. That's what I love the most.
Just enjoying things, and for people to be able to come together and enjoy themselves in a healthy way like this, I think it's great.
He is really fit.
Yeah, so despite the strong hopes and ambitions for everyone, not everyone was down with the cold. Will you guys be swimming today?
No.
No?
No.
Just visiting to see the activities?
Too cold, yes.
Are you guys going to be swimming today?
Are you kidding? No. It's just
So everyone gets ready, you warm up with this funny dance, everyone's mingling, having fun. It's men, it's women, it's adults, it's children. And this dance isn't just like an exercise, it is part of the experience. It was a lot of fun to get involved with it.
Kind of semi-jumping jacks.
I wasn't very good. This is absolutely crazy how many people are here to go into the water in this cold winter day. I feel out of my mind right now. I'm getting excited. Everyone's going in. When you're in Korea, you take your wish in with you, whatever it is. So I'm making my New Year's resolutions. Goodbye!
Go, Alex.
Remember what the temperature was like?
Oh, I'll get to that, yeah. So finally, with a loud shout, booyah, we are in the winter ocean. People are flocking in. It was cold, but it's a scene you cannot miss. The water was icy cold. I don't know the temperature, but wow. So everyone's excited and just ready to experience it. I also tried to embrace it, but ooh.
You sure this wasn't filmed in the summer? And you're just bringing
The water is absolutely freezing, but the atmosphere is even crazier. Everyone's excited. I sometimes forget that I'm cold, but right now I'm remembering it very well. But everyone here seems to be having an amazing time. There's so many people that are still in the water after so long. Oh, that was good. Woo! It's a really fun festival. You should guys try it out. 안 추우세요? 네, 안 춥습니다. 어때요? 춥지만 상당히 뜻이 좀 기쁜 것 같습니다. 예, 너무 상쾌합니다.
처음에는 너무 무섭고 두려웠는데 들어가니까 너무 좋아요.
짜릿해요. 맑고 깨끗해지는 기분입니다.
So the water was really cold, but right now you have a whole bunch of people lining up for something really nice, which is free food and free warm drinks. It looks like they have coffee, maybe tea, they got noodles, they have rice, they have a whole lot of warm food for all these cold people like myself. So, 감사합니다. 영웅입니다. Oh, it's so warm. It's hot. It feels really good after being in that cold water.
Does it really?
No, that felt good. So all these people came together to get rid of the cold and just take winter on firsthand. The Polar Bear Festival helped people do just that. You got this day full of hopes and plans for the new year, and whatever you're worried about, whatever doubt you had before going in, you just threw it to the side and went head first.
More like you forgot it because it was so cold. Right? I mean,
that's possible.
I think
Wow,
Homo sapiens are the only
wow.
species on Earth that actually volunteer for stuff like that. So tell us about the weather.
Oh, it was.
I'm looking at you funny. Yes.
It was cold. It was about 1 degree, not degrees. It was 1 degree when we got there, but it did warm up
Celsius, right.
a little. Oh, Celsius, and a little bit warmer when we finally went in around 12 o'clock. It was cold when you hit the water, but because everyone's around you excited, you kind of forget it and you just fall right in.
Oh, wow. That's
Whatever, dude.
crazy. That is crazy. And I don't want to pour cold water over it, pun intended. But the concerns about accidents, of course, and people have hypothermia is a real problem
Or a
also.
heart attack,
So
exactly.
If people stand by, know about these things, and they took care of everything.
Well, if your health test didn't come back so well, maybe you should step back. But if not, it's fine, actually. They had the fire department, they had lifeguards, they had boats, they had jet skis. They had everything from your hypothermia taking you all the way to the hospital, so it was okay.
Okay.
And was there anyone among the participants that was especially memorable, besides the one that poured a bucket of water on you?
Oh, yeah, him. The Busan beach guys, if you've ever been to Haeundae, the guys that are always tanned, they were there.
Buff.
The buff guys, yeah, in Speedos, they were
And
there.
they lift weights on the beach.
Yeah, they were there. So if
Just
you
to
know
show
them,
off, right?
if you know them, if you've ever been to Haeundae, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
In any case, hats off to you. Round of
thank you.
applause for Alex.
Appreciate it.
Maybe
It's
we'll
worth
take
it.
part with you next year, but maybe not.
You're invited. You're invited.
All right, thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah,
See you
you're
next
welcome.
week. All right, well, that's just about it for this edition of Korea Today.
All right, well, don't jump into any cold water anytime soon.
It's illegal to jump into water.
Stay warm out there. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7.
All right, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.